Welcome one, welcome all. I am Mark Paulda, a professional photographer. I have been in the photography business for well over 20 years. I want to help you succeed so you can earn money with your camera. With every episode, I will offer you sound advice so you can be part of the 15% of aspiring photographers who succeed. If you are looking for help to turn your passion for photography into a successful business, you have come to the right place. I have got the answers. My weekly episodes will help you understand how to market yourself, how to build a profitable business, and best business practices. No more feeling lost. You do not have to go it alone. Join my audio podcast and start taking my advice on turning your hobby into a profitable business. You will get access to a professional photographer and the best practices that I have learned and experienced over the years. If you have questions along the way, definitely email me. mark@markpaulda.com. You are also invited to join my photography success text community. Send me a text. 915-226-0959. If you are outside the United States, be sure to include +1, the United States country code. Let's get started.
When you read just beginning in the photography business, there comes a time, inevitably, when need to set prices. There is little concrete information about how much to charge for your work, but tons of opinions floating around various websites and blogs that often contradict one another. Be sure not to get lost down these rabbit holes, because it will only make pricing more confusing than necessary. Remember, your photography is an actual business. You need to be prepared for the question, what is your fee? Or, how much do you charge for an image? Despite your lack of fame in the photography industry, you still deserve to charge people a price for buying your work. You must be paid for your art and/or your service. Failure to do so would send the wrong message about your images and undercut any credibility as an artist. While you'll have to attach a figure to your work, if you want to be a professional, it's better to think things through first. Understanding what goes into calculating your prices. There are lots of factors that you should consider when setting your prices, but the most urgent one is the quantifiable one of calculating your cost of goods. This is how much you pay to produce your photography, including the cost of labor and any materials you need. We'll start with that one because it's the easiest to figure out and can help you establish what you want as your profits efficiently. Let us divide the cost of goods into the following sections. 1. The cost of overhead. Overhead is essentially all the activity related to running your photography business that's not directly related to labor, read, taking pictures on a shoot. Therefore, overhead includes items like the cost of your camera and equipment, the cost of replacing your camera and equipment due to natural wear and tear, advertising costs, software, Lightroom, Photoshop, post-production equipment, backdrops rentals, if you have a studio, lighting, business cards, website. These are some of the most common overhead expenses you'll immediately encounter as a photographer. If you are just starting out, it's necessary to stick to the basics as much as possible to keep said overhead costs down. Now that the overhead is out of the way, we can move on to another important area that you need to factor into your overall pricing. 2. The cost of labor. This factor is likely the trickiest to accurately figure into your pricing since a lot of it can be subjective. For example, if you love what you do, I am going to assume you really love photography, then it's going to be harder for you to count parts of it as actual work or labor. But you have to anyway. That's the whole point of running a photography business. Do not underestimate the value of your work. Consider how long, in terms of hours, you realistically have to devote to any given project you're going to be working on. Include very specific details in your calculations, such as how much time you may have to spend waiting on the models/subjects/assistants getting to your photo shoot, how much time you will spend setting up the equipment for a shoot, how long the post-editing process will take you, how long you have to travel to a client, how long you have to spend with a client, getting all the details from him. 3. The cost of your materials. Figuring out which materials go into your work is the easier part of pricing your work. For example, it is pretty straightforward to determine how much you will have to pay for shipping and handling, and any packaging to house your prints to get them to your clients. These hard costs also apply to digital services that you provide. Let us say you are using a cloud service to store your images, as well as numerous hard drives to keep you organized. Those count as material costs, too. The cost of the materials you use should never come out of your pocket. That's rule 1 of running a photography business, as opposed to just doing photography as a fun hobby. Then, there's the issue of perceived value. Perceived value is a very interesting aspect of pricing your work, and it is also subjective, unless you're a world-famous photographer already, of course. You need to sit down with yourself and ask yourself how confident you are in marking up your price to account for the profit that you want to make from selling your work. So far, I've only covered the expenses you'll have to cover when figuring out pricing. Now comes the self-interest part of attaching some form of profit to your photography product and/or service. You deserve it for the work you've put in, but what is fair and/or credible for where you're at as a photographer? Consider a few things when figuring out your perceived value. How confident you are in asking for the markup and how accurately you think it reflects your work. The perception of the value of your brand and your work in the photography industry and marketplace. The actual quality of your finished product. Read how your images look and how you package your work. Only you can determine your perceived value. If you've worked with bigger brands or clients and have years of experience, your perceived value will naturally be a lot more than if you've just started out. Thus, you can expect to mark up higher if you have a more impressive portfolio and get what you ask for, than if you have a relatively thin portfolio and not so many years of experience. It is all relative. It is clear that photography pricing cannot be set as an exact science, because there are too many factors to consider. Some of your prices will depend on measurable qualities like labor and overhead costs. However, the true profit in your work relies heavily upon how much you believe it's worth. You may think you're worth something specific, yet the marketplace is likely to have a totally different idea of your worth. Be self-aware and be realistic. Sure, you have to put in the work and build up your portfolio. But with a little patience, and maybe some luck, or just good timing, it is not hard to find clients willing to pay for what they really want. Excellent photography services at a reasonable price.
A genuine thank you for joining me today for this episode. If you are serious about success in the photography business, then I am serious and ready to help. Visit markpaulda.com and discover a variety of ways I can help you in your journey. If you have questions along the way, definitely email me. mark@markpaulda.com. You are also invited to join my photography success text community. Send me a text. 915-226-0959. If you are outside the United States, be sure to include +1, the United States country code. I will catch you in the next episode.